with that, we'll open the hearing for the Crete of Utah Field Planning and Zoning's decision. All three commissioners are here for the meeting. Commissioner Casper will read the public notice.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. This is a notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby giving us the following public hearing will be held in the Bonneville County Courthouse, 605 North Capitol Avenue, Idaho Falls, Idaho. Date and time of the hearing is today, Wednesday, February 12, 2025 at 1:45 p.m. by the Bonneville County Commissioners. This public notice was published in the Post Register January 28, 2025.
Thank you. And for our proceedings, Commissioner Mallard will be acting as Sergeant at Arms and she'll give you the rules of engagement for this hearing.
If any of you have comments that you wish to make when Chairman Walker asks for them, we would ask that you please state your name and your address. And if possible, if you can stand. And if you have mobility issues and can't stand, then please just speak up. We are recording through this device here, and we do need to make a clear record. Also, please make sure not to interrupt anyone as they're speaking. So if someone's making a comment and you disagree with them, just keep that to yourself and you can have a chance to make that statement yourself later. Chairman Walker will make sure everyone gets a chance to say what they would like to say and to rebut anything that's said. So please don't interrupt each other so that we can make sure that this record is clear. Thank you.
Thank you. So all of the minutes and from the preceding planning and zoning meeting will be retained as part of the record for this hearing. So anything that was testified to at that hearing does not need to be retestified here. We've gone through those minutes and nice long stack of, that must have been quite a meeting. With that, turn it over to planning and zoning.
Thank you, Chairman. This is Michelle Hagan with Bonneville County Planning and Zoning Department. This is an application by New Crete of Utah, Inc. This is an appeal of the decision by the Planning and Zoning Commission during their December 4th, 2024 public hearing. The property is located on the east side of North 5th East, often referred to as Louisville Highway. The address of the property is 11850 North 5th East in Bonneville County. The request was to allow a use hearing in the A1 zone to allow a rural event venue. The commission denied the request by a 5-3 vote for a rural event venue. It was commented that they could reapply after they comply with the standards, which one of was to have a dwelling on the property. Section 1-512 of the zoning ordinance allows for an appeal from the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission to be reviewed by the county commissioners. Then section 1-705 applies to the use hearing criteria that was reviewed for use hearings in the agricultural zone. And section 1-449 of the ordinance provides the criteria for the rural event venue standards. The property owner completed and submitted the appeal application along with a narrative in which he explains why he believed the Planning and Zoning Commission erred in their decision. This was received within the required 10 days from the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. The minutes were provided in your hearing packet. We have received several exhibits for the appeal. The hearing packet did include all of the items from the Planning and Zoning Commission's hearing packet as well. A determination letter was included in your packet. This document incorporates the comments from the original application. Staff's comments were in the staff report, and then the comments from the Planning and Zoning Commission. If there are conditions from the hearing, those are typically provided as well in a determination letter. So I would like to provide some info about the property. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So The first slide shows the land use map with the property that is outlined. The parcel is within a rural growth center. Okay. In the Coltman area, and then the eastern portion of the property has an agriculture land use designation as depicted on the slide. The next slide shows the zoning of the property and surrounding area, which is A1 for this area. The next slide shows the aerial view of the property and the surrounding area. This area is in active agriculture production with residential homes in the area. I believe it may be helpful to provide a brief history.
Please.
So planning and zoning staff has been trying to work with the property owner for the last few years regarding the property. It has been an ongoing code enforcement case regarding the building and zoning issues. The initial direction for the property owner when they first approached our office was to work within the parameters of the home occupation section of the ordinance, which was the path that was utilized by the Barn on First. Barn on First has since been annexed into the city of Ammon and is no longer subject to the limitation within the county ordinance for a home occupation. Things for the home occupation, you have a 2,000 square foot limit in the building for use for a home.
There you go.
Use, and then you also have, it needs to be home, no outside employees. There are several other items in that section of our ordinance. The owner did not follow the standards that are in the home occupation section of the ordinance. The building permit that was applied for and issued by the office was for a horse barn, which is allowed within the A1 zone and has no size limitations. A horse barn and a commercial event venue are different building code types that require different building permits and building classifications. As the planning staff received multiple requests from multiple people to explore having an alternative for events outside of a commercial zone or outside of a home occupation in the zoning ordinance. We had a lot of discussion and went through the process and amended the ordinance to create the rural event venue as an alternative. There are several standards as part of this use in attempt to allow a rural event venue to locate in the agricultural zone and continue to be an accessory use and not impact the surrounding agricultural area. A use hearing is a requirement. The use hearing application was a step toward bringing the property into compliance with the zoning ordinance and comply with the standards in section 1-449, rural event venue in the zoning ordinance. Are there any other questions for me at this time?
I have a question. When was the rural event venue ordinance changed?
It was July of 2024.
Okay, with that, we'll turn it over to representative of Crete of Utah.
We can't hear back here.
You have a mic?
Yeah.
If we do, it stops that from working. So it's, if any of you are great at technology and can help us solve this problem, yeah, we have 3 mics, but if we turn them on, that doesn't work. And so we're trying to figure it out. So we'll turn it, do we have somebody here from
Sean is here.
Crete? Okay.
Since you came in late, I'll repeat our instructions at the beginning, and that is that anyone who speaks, if you would please stand, we're recording through this device right here. And if you would state your name and your address for the record. We would also admonish everyone not to interrupt anyone else, to let someone finish speaking. Everyone will get a chance to say what they would like and to rebut what they would like.
Okay, my name's Sean Russell. It's 11850 North 5th East, just off Louisville Highway.
Louder. I'm hard of hearing too. So
Sorry.
I'm pretty sure that's gonna have a hard time.
I'm sorry, it's
That's
Sean
okay.
Russell. It's 11850 North 5th East, off Louisville Highway in Idaho Falls. Yeah, this, I guess, I don't know where you want me to start. I came in late, so I'm kind of,
Okay, so everything that was said at the planning and zoning hearing, we reviewed.
okay,
So that doesn't have to be redone. Anything that's changed since that hearing would be pertinent to this. Any of the stuff that planning and
Okay.
zoning said you should do this, this, and this, that you've done, that might be relevant.
okay, thank you. Haven't done nothing yet because it's pointless to put a ton of money in if I'm gonna get rejected. As far as the parking lot goes, I kind of feel like I'm really being discriminated against because there's 5 businesses next to me that have 0 asphalt, period. I'm trying to keep it country. That's all I've tried to do. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, we're just trying to be good neighbors, do the right thing. I've complied with the county, everything they've asked me. I really don't know what's to go with that.
Well, you'll have a chance to answer to any questions.
Yeah, that would be
members
nice.
of the public have for you that didn't come up in the first hearing. Did I mention that?
That'd be great.
We don't want to rehash everything that's been hashed, but so if you'd like to have a seat, then we'll
Thank
open
you.
it up. If that's all you have, then
Yeah,
we'll,
I don't know what's
like I said, we'll
needs to be
we'll
done
grant
yet.
leeway and be responding
So-
to questions or comments that haven't come up in the initial hearing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Anything else from staff? Then we'll open for the public input portion of this. We should like get numbers at the door. so that- Okay, so let's deal with the folks that we have here on the premises first. This is Utica, is that? Utica? Yeah, okay, thought so. Who wants to start? Somebody have
I can go first.
comment? Okay, if you would, state your name and address for the record.
Okay. So I am Thane Utica, and I reside at 11890 North 50. So I'm in the house next to the to Sean's. So me and my sister Michelle Butekofer and myself, we care for a mother. She's 81 years old and requires some attention.
Let me interrupt you for just a minute.
Yes.
Mr. Russell, you can come to the front row if that would assist in hearing.
Actually.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to talk loud. I'm not used to this. So I usually freeze, so I brought notes. Anyway, I share 2 sides of the property line with Sean. My bedroom window for my house is like 70 feet away from the property line. The barn is like 110 feet from my property line. So Mr. Russell, he has claimed that his neighbors have been completely dishonest. And this is just not true. We have kept planning and zoning updated through the entire process of all the activities through a long email chain, including you know, there's descriptions, photos and videos of the events that have gone on. You know, the planning and zoning, they've investigated the non-compliance in the code enforcement complaints that I submitted in August 2023 and also June of 24. Stop work notices were and cease and desist orders were issued following both of these investigations. We have provided the sheriff's deputy case report for the noise complaints that were called in on September 28th, 24. I've also provided videos of those events. We put calls into the sheriff's office for the following two events. Our purpose was for the sheriff's office to submit citations for enforcement as is, you know, as the ordinance call out for enforcement actions for the stop work notice. The officers showed up and couldn't do anything because it's a business. So, you know, and so there's nothing they could do. The stop work orders are not in their system. So we found out later we had to call the chief, talk to him, and he said, well, you know, the order's got to go something, we don't have it, and it's got to go through the Odyssey system before we can do any enforcement action. And so that was our intent for the second two calls. Nothing could be done. And as far as I know to date, it's still not in their system. So there's essentially no enforcement actions that can be taken. You know, it seems like our only enforcement action at this point is to not deny the permit. That's the only thing we have. And even then, I'm not sure with his actions that he'll stop his activities. So Mr. Russell, he's really been just awesome, starting with the first meeting that he had the planning and zoning. He clearly knew what the requirements were, but he didn't follow these ordinances. He built a building which was clearly not a horse barn.
Remind you that everything that's part of the original planning and zoning.
I know,
is
but
part of
okay,
this. We don't need to go
I'm
back
just trying
over
to
it.
say that,
Don't need to go back over it.
I mean,
Okay.
so, yeah, so, right, and so he basically has been dishonest. There was the first two, he's been told numerous times, probably 3 times, it was lined out to him what the requirements are, what the building ordinances are. He did not do that. He built the barn and it's in place. So,
One more time,
The
I will
first-
say,
yes,
you don't need to go over what's in the record that we have.
I know, I'm just,
We don't need to rehash.
I was just
that.
making
So
the,
anything new, okay? I appreciate that. I
Thanks.
appreciate your passion in this, as I do everyone's. But in order for the meeting to stay as it should, nothing personal and nothing that's already in the record.
yeah.
Thank you.
So my intent is just to show that, you know, I've provided facts, I provided pictures, evidence, videos. We've got people in the community, my other neighbors have witnessed events. You know, I wasn't at all the events because there's times on the weekend I'm out. And so, you know, even after we had the board decision, he's had like 2 more events. And so he's still holding events in a building that's not approved, no permit. Anyway, I'm just saying that if there's anyone that has shown dishonesty, it's Mr. Russell. So he also says that he's been unfairly treated and discriminated against, right? And so
The record that we've reviewed.
So the only other event on the highway that I know of is the Cowboy Warrior Ranch, right? And from what I understand, they're working to get a permit. They have a permit
It's
for,
not part of this hearing.
okay, well,
Okay.
I'm just,
Not part of this hearing.
I'm just responding to his application for
Okay,
appeal. Anyway, so, you know, I haven't seen any recorded evidence that, you know, that Michelle Hagan and the county has approved this event venue to be constructed and built. And now it's built. I mean, obviously we can't stop the construction anymore. It's built. I don't see how we can approve it at this point. So I'm just asking you today, just not to let the blatant disregard to our county ordinances, you know, take precedent, because this will just happen over and over again. I mean, just build whatever you want and then ask for forgiveness later. It really is against, you know, the ordinance is there to protect me, and it's also to protect him. So if he followed the ordinance to start out with, we would have had the meeting. We could have had everything figured out before we even started construction. I'm just asking you this time to not approve this event.
thank you for your testimony.
Okay, this is something I think that's really hard for people to understand, is an appeal hearing. And so what we have before us is a decision of the Planning and Zoning Board. We have all the evidence. We've reviewed all the evidence, all the testimony, all the letters, all the emails that were submitted for that. We have that. We have the decision of the Planning and Zoning Board. So the only thing we're looking at here today is whether or not we uphold or don't uphold the decision of the Planning and Zoning Board. So things that would be relevant would be whether there was enough evidence for their decision or not, or whether something has changed. So we're very limited in what we're doing here. We understand everyone's feelings on this matter, I think perfectly, because we've heard from both sides. So we understand your feelings on the matter. All we're determining is whether or not we're going to uphold planning and zoning decision or not. And that's based on whether there was enough evidence to uphold it. We're not rehashing their decision. We're not reviewing their decision. We're looking at whether or not there is enough evidence to uphold their decision. And if anything has changed since then, that might change the decision. Just, yeah, everybody's, I know it's really hard to understand that we're not here just doing it all over again. We're just reviewing that one decision.
Okay, Kara Raymond, 3268 East, 100 North, Rigby, Idaho. And based on what you just said, I do believe that there was not enough evidence at the last hearing, so I'll present that really quickly for your review. At the last use hearing on December 4th, the commissioners chose to deny the request of the property owner to operate as a rural event center. I believe the commissioners did not consider all of the facts in the situation and allowed biases against the property owner and lateness of the hour. It was 2 a.m. by the time we finished to hear all the information in this use hearing and chose to deny the proposal. The facts addressed in the December 4th hearing laid before the commissioner were, number one, assess impact on existing agricultural operations. It was stated that the farmland was not currently being farmed, but that was incorrect. It has been leased to be farmed for this year, thus preserving agricultural operations in the area, which is consistent with the land use. This property is over 20 acres and the venue is situated close to the road to preserve the rest of the property for agricultural and ranch usage. Number two, the commissioners were challenged to establish the need for the proposed change. There is a definite need on the north side of Bonneville County for an event space such as this. There are plenty of event spaces on the east side of Idaho Falls, but none on the north side or in the adjoining Jefferson County, as this space will serve both counties. It was discussed at that hearing that the property would not generate revenue for the county by the commissioners or employ many people. This is not true. On Skype right now, we have several service workers and people in the area that are very anxious to see this proposal go through. Yes.
it's my fault. This letter was sent and included in the record.
Okay,
I didn't stipulate that out, so we've all read the
are you
letter.
sure you've all read it? Because it was within the
was
last
sent
24
yesterday.
hours. Okay,
So
Okay.
we reviewed all this morning. I'm just, if you have
Yeah.
a synopsis of it, if, if
Great.
you'd like to, you don't have to read the whole.
do you have any
No letter,
questions
so,
for me on the letter then? Do you have any questions for me based on the information that I gave?
No, you did a great job of
Okay.
line iteming and bulleting points. I appreciate that.
So, yeah, I just feel like there was a lot of information that was not put forth for the commissioners and a lot of things that were misrepresented. And I personally have been on the location at the event times that were discussed, previously. And there's one resident that has called all those calls in with the officers. I was personally spoke with the officers and they had mentioned to me that they could not even hear the sound from the road or as they approached the door. So I feel like that has been a little bit grossly exaggerated for the benefit of the homeowner in order to kind of, and the property owner or the owner, Sean Russell, has consented to providing buffers and comply with all of the things the commissioners have asked at the last use hearing. He has said that he would be willing to do that. I think that's kind of most of the things I wanted to say, if you guys have all read this, so thank you,
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I actually have a couple of questions.
Yeah, go
A
ahead.
number of things that were listed out by the planning and zoning that needed to be done before they consider reevaluating the application. I believe the owner said he hasn't done any of those things yet because you don't want to invest in something that's not going to go somewhere. And I totally understand that. I've been where you are on issues. So I totally understand that feeling. There were some things that I think probably should be brought out. It says in the notes of the meeting that a front buffer zone is probably not realistic because of the spacing.
Mhm.
That's something for planning and zoning to decide on before they issue a certificate of occupancy for the business. The paved parking space, I believe, only applies to the handicap parking space, which
Okay.
has to be designated in for handicap parking. My questions would go further back than that, to the date of the change in the ordinance for the zoning, changing the zoning from the new one. And this building was built before that date. And my questions would be specific to really the public safety, health safety issues, the engineering, and I know because I grew up in ag country. Ag buildings are not built to commercial standards. We've got a couple of ag buildings that have been switched over to more people uses instead of animal uses. And the engineering is important when you pack people in the buildings. The building is engineered for the number of people that are going to be in there, so the roof doesn't come down when it's covered with snow.
Obviously.
And so meeting those requirements I see is important in this process, but
Does that need to be done prior to, because I feel like a lot of the proposals that are brought before the commissioners to pass something are before the building is even built. And so you are acting in good faith, passing a proposal, knowing that those people will then follow through and work with the planning and zoning, correct?
that's true. But
Okay.
it does come down to whether or not all of those obligations have been met before the certificate of occupancy is issued and the
Right.
business can actually perform business in that space.
Which he would be very willing to work with the planning and zoning on occupancy engineer. I think you have an engineer that he's already been speaking with an engineer about the occupancy. There should be no problems with that. So,
Any other questions from either of you?
No, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate you sending the letter in advance so that I could look at it and take notes. And
Quick comment, if we've got a few minutes.
yes,
Okay, I wasn't at the original hearing.
Would you please state your name?
Excuse me.
Jordan McCullough, 893 East 113th North. That plot map that you showed, our property line is just on the south of Sean's, so we share that property line. Again, I don't know all of those stipulations. I think one of them was that the land was still being used agriculturally, at least a portion of it. Am I correct there?
Not a stipulation, but part of the record of,
Oh,
of history of the ground.
okay, so not pertinent to the actual zoning decision. Okay, I can obviously attest to the fact that it has been being hayed because I watch it happen. In any case, you know, there's been a lot of relitigation on what was originally approved. It sounds like some ordinances were changed kind of in the middle of the process. My concern, excuse me, is being Sean's neighbor. We haven't had an issue with noise or anything like that, but of course I'm not his immediate neighbor, right? We're not immediately abutting him. But he's put a lot of effort, a lot of money into building this facility. Seems like it's probably going to be a net good overall for the community and the area. It sounds like there may be an ordinance stipulation on a dwelling on the lot. Is that right? A permanent
That is one of the standards.
permanent dwelling? Okay.
Yes.
From my perspective, the man, if a man's put $800,000 into building this building, right, and he's planning on operating it as a business, and it's not stipulated that you can only operate it 12 days a year, right? So he probably had a plan on how often he would be operating this venue, obviously to generate that income. If you want a dwelling built on the property, it sounds like the best way to do that is going to be to allow that business to operate, right? Generate that revenue. Let's get that permanent dwelling built if that's going to be a stipulation. And in the meantime, we need to figure out a way to work with the immediate neighbors to make sure that it's not diminishing quality of life for those immediate neighbors. I mean, we can go back and rehash exactly what has to be done on the ordinances side, paving a handicap parking space. Sure, I totally understand Sean's perspective on, well, I don't want to put in $30,000 if I'm just going to be denied, right, on doing all these things. I'm sure that if he's approved, that he will go and do those things, right? And if he doesn't, there's probably going to be some enforcement action against that. And I doubt that he wants to go through with that. I think what he wants to do is operate the business. And I think that he wants to do it in a way that is, you know, not going to harm the people around him. And being one of his neighbors, I've spoken with Sean a couple of times, and I think that's probably the case. So I think we just need to figure out a way to get this to move forward and do it in a respectful way to where it just doesn't affect the neighbors immediately around him. But that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I would also like to speak if there's still time.
We'll get to you in a minute. We're not online yet. We're still dealing with the folks here, okay? Thank you. If you're more comfortable setting,
I'm okay for a bit.
okay.
I'm Gary Machin, and I live at 11591 North, 5 East. And when we first heard about this building coming up, we had somebody come and ask if we were for it or against it. And I told the gal that was taking the survey that I was totally for it. If you own the property, you should be able to do a lot with what you want. And if they didn't like it, they could have bought that property when it came up for sale. And it's a good looking barn. I live down the road just a little bit, and I've never had any adverse happening with the people or the noise or anything. So I just wanted to get it straight that I am not for shutting it down I wouldn't want somebody to come on my property and tell me what I could or could not do with it. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
My name is Scott Randall, and I live at 208-569-38, excuse me. Rattling off, 116, now I'm losing it. 11679 North, 15th East. I own the land behind. I own all the land behind. I have 240 acres there. And I did miss the first meeting, and I hope you're patient with me if I tread on something that
okay.
somebody else has said. But when you're 80 years old, it's a little hard to get out. The only thing I have to say about it is I have a building on my lot, where my home is. And it took me about 60,000 to put it up. But I had to step. And I ran every bit of it through here. And you know, I didn't have any trouble putting it up. And I didn't have to have a hearing because it was an agricultural farm, among other things. But I have a man that farms out there. It's always been a farm in there. I have lived there all my life. My father lived there all his life. We're an old resident, over 100 years. And like I say, it probably won't affect me a terrible lot because it's the back end of my property. But I am concerned about it. And I know you can't stop progress, but you can follow the steps if you want to put something up. And I have to agree, it's always easier to put it up and then apologize later. And that isn't the way you do things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else here? Go online? Okay.
Roger Raymond, 3268 East, 100 North, Rigby. I'm also a lifelong native. In fact, my great-grandpa cleared and tilled and farmed all that Louisville, Manan area. So I'm a lifelonger, and I understand, and a few people appreciate rural living more than me, and a few people despise urban sprawl more than I do. I can tell you a year ago, when my daughter tried to get married, the difficulty we ran into looking for a venue is undescribable. We ended up having to settle for something over 30, 45 minutes away. Huge inconvenience. The lack of, or the businesses that had existed had shut down. There's so little competition. The price points were unrealistic. And it put a pretty unnecessary hardship on us to try to have a venue in a reasonable location. And I've commiserated with lots of friends and lots of neighbors and associates with the same type of a problem. Now, also, I wasn't the first one, so I'm going to hopefully not make this disjointed. I'll try to skip and narrow down. And I was under the impression that the permissions were granted with fully apprised of the scope and magnitude. That apparently is going to end up in arbitration probably, of whether it was granted or not granted. But so that part's fairly moot. But you know, one of the primary arguments was noise. I can tell you that people that living in this area should be very familiar and accustomed to agricultural issues, which exceed those suggested by this venue by several orders of magnitude. A tractor baling hay all night long while the dew was on. A thrashing machine working late into the night would drown out even the loudest possible conceivable music or party that this venue could ever generate. The dust and traffic and noise associated with spring and fall tilling and planting are so far beyond anything this venue could generate that it would also become a moot point. The building is very aesthetically pleasing. It's more than adequate accommodations to ensure there's no traffic problems. There's parking galore. And there's no measurable environmental impact whatsoever. I understand and I'm sympathetic to people wanting fields forever in all directions. I want that myself. I recognize those things. But unless we completely shut down growth of any kind, then we're obligated to provide infrastructure and accommodate the growth that is already occurring. And there is not adequate resources available. So my perspective is there's no reason whatsoever to renege, or in my perspective and the information I had, to renege on the previously granted approval for this property. And the amount of, that's probably enough, because I didn't hear the other stuff. Hopefully I haven't read.
You're fine, thank you.
Hi, Gina Wemiller, 893 East 113th North. My son spoke earlier. We have a plot of land behind Sean's property there. Bought 10 acres for that same reason, because we like the spread out area, and just kind of adding on manure spreaders all night long on, on property adjacent to us. Diskers on the other property. We're okay with that. We haven't had any problem with Sean and the noise either. And with respect to the Buddha coffers, we're looking to have generational property there as well. And I apologize, I missed the first hearing as well, but I would caution, I do know that the Cowboy Warrior Ranch down the road is seeking the same permit. And I would caution that if this permit's denied, to, in fairness and in equity of what we do need in that community, that be considered as well. I understand that, and I don't know, I wish I did know if the permitting process was or wasn't followed, and what changed in the ordinances and what didn't change. And I don't think that Sean intentionally is asking for forgiveness rather than permission. In all honesty, I'm from Alaska, and 2 years here now. The ordinances and the rules are confusing sometimes. So I don't think that there was any malice or ill intent in putting that facility in. I do know that there's agricultural going on behind there. I know he's got horses out there. My horses, when they run away, they go to his. So I do know that he is maintaining the spirit of the agricultural land as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lorraine Davids, and I live at 11751 North 50th. I'm right across the street. All the time that they were building, everything was kept up. He kept everything very, very clean. It shouldn't bother anyone. And I never hear any noise. I sit out on my deck at night when they're having events there. I've never been bothered by anything. I think that if he bought that property, and I think he should be able to do what he would like on it.
Thank you.
I think my son's worried about me, so I say in my mind. I guess I'll just discount.
You gotta say your name
And I'm Phyllis Beauticofer. And I live at 11890 North 50th, right by the Russells, who are building the horse barn. So I guess I pretty well, you have any letter from me?
We have everything from the first hearing that was submitted in the transcript.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, then I'll just say, I think the way our house is located, I'm telling you, this affects my life so much because I really get bombarded. And I can't, when they go in the evening, I can't sleep at night. And because I can hear the thumping underneath my bed. I mean, it just literally, and I guess maybe it's the way we're positioned, our land by there, our house, but I hear everything. And I used to be able to go out on the back porch and enjoy myself and have my family over, because I'm pretty well wheelchair bound. So that really means a lot that I can go out and do those things. And I've lived there forever, and it's been so quiet and so peaceful. And now I can't have family over, and it's so noisy on the back porch. I mean, we hear everything. It's really, really disrupting to us, and it's just changed my life entirely. I have no hard feelings towards them, but I just really hope, I really think that my husband and I, we've always followed all all the years we've been there. I've been there 60, but we've always followed all the rules and laws for anything to be able, we had a few things we wanted to build, but we weren't unable to because we didn't have enough land on the sites and so forth. But I think that if this is allowed, they should have to follow every single and go back, just like we have. This is what laws are for. This is why we have commissioners and etc. Anyway, I don't want to take up time, but I think, and then as far as me, it's sound. It's the sound of the cars and trucks come in, and some of them idle their trucks. The lights are really bright. We have video. I would really like to see it shown of how loud it is from our house, right? In our house. But anyway, that's all I got to say, and I said it, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buchhofer.
Thank you for your consideration.
Any other comments from here in-house? And then we'll go to online and give you well, we'll wait and see what.
Gonna wait, Sean, and call the online people are done.
Yeah, probably best.
Sorry.
So somebody online said they wanted, did you see who that was?
Shannon McCann or Mika?
Yeah, my name's Shannon Meacham. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And I am at 11738 North 5th East, which is on the south fence line to the property in question with New Crete. When Sean Russell got up and stated his name and address, that is not his living address. He does not live there. So we all have to be vulnerable and put on record our living addresses, and he gets to come up and say that his company lives there or he lives there, but he doesn't. It seems like an unfair way to begin the whole proceeding. He decided to make this nearly $1 million gamble and is now saying people are picking on him when really what we want to talk about is the stipulations and ordinances. From what I understood on the last committee comments on their decision, they talked about not wanting to set a precedent for landowners not being able to do whatever they want, which, you know, they can't do whatever they want. And that's why we have ordinances. That's why we have zoning committees. We agree what we are able to do on our property and what we aren't. And so the questions then come up in how are these being enforced, which they haven't been. How are they enforced with somebody who clearly has $1 million to spare and won't really be affected by fines if he doesn't come into compliance, won't probably bother him too much. And so if they do decide to go through with awarding an out-of-state business landowner rules instead of somebody who actually lives on the property, if he comes into compliance or if he promises he'll come into compliance, what will be the steps to decide how that gets handled? Because he has not so far done that, as Michelle Hagan laid out in the beginning with her summation. He has continually tried to act innocent and like, I didn't understand, and what are you talking about, and why are people picking on me? But if he has $850,000 to build a giant event center and call it a barn, I'm pretty sure he could hire somebody to help him understand the stipulations and ordinances here. And so I don't think anybody should be feeling sorry for him at this point. If I was a business owner, I would not jump into buying that much property and building a whole facility without understanding rules that I was breaking and if I was breaking them. So there is a great assumption here that he is committing these infractions and not coming into compliance on purpose and hoping he'll be forgiven later, because it is completely within his practice to be able to have come into compliance from the beginning. And as we've tried to ask him and hold him to compliance or say, what is your plan for this? He has not come up with plans. He keeps making excuses. It's winter. I don't want to invest any more money. Instead of coming forward with a plan, if this does go forward, here are my plans. Here is what I will do. That would be a really professional business owner response to trying to have an appeal hearing, bringing us all here to offer our testimony. So yeah, there's the lack of understanding, the lack of his showing compliance in the past and currently today. He doesn't sound like he understands or wants to understand what's expected of him. In the committee hearing before, they kept trying to ask him what he was going to do for a buffer zone. And he said, well, I built berms and they're very small. I can see most of the event center from my bedroom window. There's just a few really sparse pine trees. So just some of the little things of like, what is he going to do to be in compliance with all those different items that are part of the regulations of Bonneville County. And that's where we really stand. It's not a matter of like how many neighbors turned up to say he should do what he likes to do and how many neighbors said, I don't like the noise. It's not a vote. There are laws, there are ordinances, and he is being asked to comply. And so I would like to know what the plan is and what the regulations and consequences will be if this ever were to move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
Yes, this is Tanya Christensen.
Okay. Slipped under the wire, Tanya.
I reside at 11952 North 5th East. I live north of Thane and Phyllis Butekulper and have for over 45 years. I know that the woman who spoke earlier stated that there weren't any venues north of town or in Jefferson County, but yet there's the Loft Reception Center, the 7N Ranch, and the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, and all of those places I have attended events at, so I don't know how that's a factual statement. I do know that on 128 of 25, there was an event held at the Barn/Event Center. There was also an event on 12/20 of 24, another event that was held after they had received the ruling on 12/4. And so taking that into consideration and that they still just disregard the things that have been told to them and said to them and continue to just operate and do those things. It's just very concerning. It's concerning to be able to sit on my back porch and have a quiet conversation on an evening. I'm also concerned about our personal wells. We all have personal wells. This isn't city, we don't have city water. So we come and we do all those things. It's very concerning to me. And I know that you've got my statements from before and currently. And so that is what I will leave you with.
All right, thank you for your input. Anyone else online? And with that, back to.
Thank you. I'm trying to be a really good neighbor.
So that, state your name.
Sean Russell, 11850.
Just so that they when they're
50s, okay.
doing the notes.
They say I don't live there, around there all the time. I got a fifth wheel in the back because I'm building a home in the back. I got a shop going up. They all know that. I'm trying to make it a great community. I think I provide a lot towards the community. Floral, catering, photography, that all brings money into the community. And it's quiet. These guys make it sound like that I'm really being loud. That's not true at all. Everything's done and gone by 10 o'clock at night, period. I don't let it go any further. I mean, I want to help these people. They won't talk to me. They won't address anything I got to say. I had my one gal here taking wedding cake and drinks and everything, and they totally shut her out. And it's just, we're trying to be friends, we're trying to be good, we're trying to be coordinate. I'm trying to give something back to the community. I can't water that front end of the property, so that's why I built that. And honestly, I don't want to throw anybody at the table. Michelle told me I could have this, I could build it. I don't need to use herring. I build it, $800,000 later, you can't. So you know what? We'll work it out. I complied with everything they asked Michelle. I did everything they asked me to do. And still, I'm at this point right now. And it's like, I'm trying. I'm not trying to hurt nobody. I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want to put, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to put 20,000 square feet of asphalt. That takes the country out of the building. I mean, there's 7 businesses up for me 5 miles away, and only 2 have asphalt. One's Maverick.
Let me interrupt you. Can you point to where anybody's asked you to do that?
Pardon?
Can you point to where anybody's asked you to put that much asphalt on there?
Yes, the last board meeting we had, there was one gal that says you need to put asphalt in your parking lot with stripes. I'm like, now
Well, today it clarified 1 for the handicap.
Okay.
well, I make sure that's okay. But as far as that goes, I mean, I'm trying to comply with everything. And I want to be good neighbors. I've tried, and you can ask these guys. I mean, Phyllis here came over and told me how great my building was, how great it was for the community. And I don't know where that went.
That was nice, but the sound.
And then
Okay, with us.
Okay, and then Thane, I worked his ditches all day long. I'm trying to be a good neighbor. I put my equipment in, my fuel to try to be a good neighbor. And I mean, I could have tore their water line up and didn't do it. But I'm just trying to be a good guy. I can't irrigate that up there. So I'd like to make something out of it and help the community. And so far, I've got so many great reviews I can give you over and over again. The people that love that place, that want to come out there, they don't have to go clear to Rigby, or in town, there's nothing. So that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make everything right.
Just you say you can't water the front half. Is that because of water rights or because it's all rock?
I can't get.
I know, because our place was.
Yeah, well,
section that was all rock.
it was all farmed. It was all farmed by these folks. They had it and they sold it. But I tried to run the irrigation up that far. No way.
The water won't get there from the ditch.
2 weeks, and the water didn't even get halfway. And that was after it was supposedly
Okay, just
level.
curious. That's not really relative, but
Okay, yeah.
I'm always curious about water. That seems to be an issue in our culture right now.
But I'm still farming the back half. Taylor Smith has got all that ground. I got a letter from him, if you want to see it. He's farming all that back ground for me. I just can't keep up with it. I'm trying to fight all this other stuff. So, but I still want to farm it.
One other question. So you do not live at the address you gave us at the beginning of your testimony?
No, you know what?
What's your address?
You know
have to
what?
have that for a record, so.
It's still my address.
Let me ask it this way. What was the address you gave at the previous hearing? Because it was a different.
Same thing, because I stay out there a lot.
That's
I
where
go
your
back and
mail
forth.
goes?
I'm
That's your
trying.
mailing address?
What's that?
That's your mailing address? You have a
No,
mailbox out
it's not my
there?
mailing address.
And is that where you're registered to vote?
I could do either.
Where,
We can't.
But
There's
I-
rules
I-
about-
I
That's why I
can-
asked, because there's very specific rules about what your home address is.
Okay, I
which
can
is what
vote.
we
I still
need
pay
for
taxes.
this.
Yep, I
Okay,
can.
but we need your home address for the records for the hearing.
where are you registered to vote? Not where can you? vote, where are you?
11850 Fifth East.
If we look at our voter records, you're a registered voter here in Bonneville County.
I haven't registered to vote. No.
Okay, I'm asking you, Where are you currently registered to vote?
In Utah.
And what's the address there?
P.O. Box 232, Upper Utah.
Do they allow you to the PO box to register to vote?
Yes.
The other question is, where do you file your income tax? That's the other proof that the county uses to validate your residency for homeowners exemption. So those are the two rules that apply. If you're
Okay.
a resident there, then you file Idaho taxes. If you're not, then you don't. It's just so that we have accurate information in the record.
Okay, I still pay taxes in Idaho,
It's not what I asked
but
you.
I pay taxes in Utah too.
File income tax in the state of Idaho.
Utah.
Okay. And the address for that is,
P.O. Box 232, Upper Utah.
okay, so we have that record for your address. Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was painful.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions? Appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate the civil approach to the discourse. I think that's really important. I don't care to have pitchforks and baseball bats. So I appreciate that. And I know it's a passionate thing. We all live in neighborhoods and we all want the rules to apply to everybody evenly and fairly, and that's what hearings are for. So is there anything else that can be made part of the record? And we will close the public input portion of this hearing, take it under advisement. We will not discuss this collectively, but we will individually with planning and zoning to answer our individual questions as we go back and review the records, testimony from this and the previous hearing. And then we will have a, what's the word for it?
Finding of fact.
Finding of fact,
That will be
thank
read.
you. Generally, that takes a couple of weeks, so if you watch our meeting calendar, you'll see it come up in a couple of weeks. And with that, we'll close the hearing. Thank you very much.